Good afternoon and salams everyone out there listening to Ramadan FM. We are currently live at the studio and it's a very hot studio. That noise in the background is the AC running because boy it is a scorcher in Leicester today. And we're also coming out live on YouTube. I am your host Saiful Chowdhury and this is Ramadan FM news show, Saif Lounge. So this is my first show and I'm presenting a talk show type program. A little bit about me. I am a teacher at Judge Meadow and I work as part of the leadership team, and part of my responsibility is that I do a lot of work with the community, and it is the community work that has brought me down to the station and I've been on here as a guest. And they've also asked me to come on as a producer for Kids Show, bring my podcast team down, and we've done that during the month of Ramadan. That was amazing fun, and for some reason they decided to give me my own show, and oh dear, I better not mess this up because otherwise you won't hear from me again. So here we go. So Saif Lounge, let's listen in. So I want this to be an interactive show and I'd really love to hear from you. So please do call in, WhatsApp, so call us in on 0116 482 2086, and also you can WhatsApp on 077 488 55055. So I'm truly excited to present today's topic, but before I introduce that topic, I want to share a tidbit of information with you. Did you know that last year, so in the year of 2022, there were 348 million books sold in the UK? That's 348 million books sold in the UK. That's an amazing figure. And just to add to that's a revenue of £2.5 billion. And I don't know about you, but that's an outstanding figure. So that leads me to the topic. I love reading. I love to curl up on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and read a book. And I want to talk about reading, but not just about reading, but about writing. And this is my way of introducing two writers in the studio that we have today. So I'd like to first introduce Azwal Imbada.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me on the show. It's a real pleasure to be here. I don't know if I consider myself a full writer. I'm a forming writer still, but I'm also an English teacher at Judge Meadow, and I work alongside you, Saif, which is an absolutely fun and amazing experience, mostly.
Thank you.
But yeah, it's incredible to be here to be able to talk about something as important as reading in a society perhaps when it is becoming less and less of a practice amongst young people especially.
Well, thank you for being here. And I feel like I didn't really give you a choice because I kind of asked you and said, yep, you need to come down. And now going to my next guest, who I didn't give a choice either, is Sofia Moti.
Hi, good afternoon. Again, thank you for inviting us. It's really exciting to be here. So I'm Sofia Moti. I'm a teacher. I'm also a tutor at Aspire Tutoring. And again, like Azra, I don't consider myself as a writer, but I love reading, and we're just publishing our first book, so it's really exciting to be here. Thank you.
So just to clear the air, I've had to call in a lot of favours to get these guests in. Azwal Imbada is my colleague at work. Sofia Moti is my sister-in-law. So I had to call in these chips just to make sure that I'm not on the radio show by myself talking to myself about books. But anyway, let's get right down to it. So my very first question is, right, so this is a question to Azwa.
Sure.
If I could ask you about your latest book or project and what inspired you to write it.
Okay, well, my latest project is with Sweet Cherry Publishing in Leicester. I'm writing a book that celebrates the sort of diverse, I've forgotten the word.
Diversity,
and the multiculturalism of Narborough Road.
Awesome.
Sorry about that, forgotten, but it happens to me often. I have so many words in there, you see. But the idea is that it is the most multicultural road in the whole of the country, not just Leicester, but the whole of the country. And it is, widely celebrated for that. So the whole purpose of the book is to kind of, talk about where these people come from, how they got here. Those stories are important to recognize that, and to sort of show how they are woven into the fabric of being British. So that's the essential kind of idea there. And, it's hopefully aged. So it's it's a young children's book, so aged between 4 to 7. So will be well illustrated. So I'm quite excited to see the illustrations. And
well, I'm excited to get a chance to read it, and I think that's amazing. I remember seeing a documentary on Narber Road, and I'm plucking this figure from my head, but I believe about 60 different nationalities are represented
it
on.
is around that
yeah,
much,
around about that much, and it's amazing. And I love how it's almost like a self-sustaining community because they all help each other out, repairs of things like that. And I think if you've not been down to Narber Road, please do go and check it out.
Yeah, it is amazing.
It is an amazing piece of Leicester, and it's a part of Leicester that we should definitely be proud of. Sophia, same for you. What are you working on?
So we're working on a book called Survival. It's a fiction book for ages sort of 9 to 12. And the reason why we actually started is not just myself. I've got 2 young writers who are actually my students. One's my daughter and another writer.
So hold on. So you got young writers. So how old are these writers?
So Amira Moti, age 11, and Khalil Hassam, he's age 12.
Wow.
Well,
So
just turned 13 actually, but yeah.
wow. So you have collaborated with 2 young writers.
Yeah. A year ago in March, they said to me, "Oh, when we become older, we want to be authors." And I just thought, what an opportunity that we can do as a 3 and write this book together. When we started, it was kind of like a pipe dream, and we thought, do you know what, we're not sure where this is going to go, we'll just write and see. But through the year, I'm really proud of the students, I'm proud of the work we've produced, and we actually are getting it published. We've gone through the self-publishing route, which is difficult, which we'll talk about later, but it's not been an easy journey, but it's been an incredible journey, and it's about, there's lots of themes coming through that, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I'm really excited. So it's Survival, it should be out in 2 weeks, hopefully.
Oh, awesome. I'm looking forward. I mean, to be honest, I have got a draft copy of it, I'm not going to lie, and I have read the first 2 pages of it. I'll give it to you as well. And honestly, it is awesome read so far, the first 2 things. So, can I ask you as well, what inspired you to start writing?
I think that I've always been inclined to write ever since I was a child. I think it was, in lots of ways, it becomes like a coping mechanism, because when you experience something, like when you feel something, the thought doesn't have to be fully formed for you to feel the hurt of it or the bad part of it. But when you write it down, you're forced to take that thought and think it through. And often that can help you resolve whatever it is that's causing.
So it's almost like a bit of therapy.
It 100% was like a therapeutic way to get through, whatever life chucked at us in those times back in the days. But for sure, I think it was always embedded into me that writing was something I always did. And I also read. So the reading was concurrent. Like, to write, you have to read. So that journey was connected. The more I read, the more I wrote, and the better I wrote.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I mean, for me, just going off on a bit of a tangent, I'm a math teacher, so for me, being a teacher of mathematics and writing shouldn't really go. But to be honest, I have a very overactive imagination, and I've often spent my youth reading the books, but then almost like in my mind writing sequels of the books, the stories that way. And sometimes when I'm like watching a movie and part 2 of the movie, I like think about what would that be like. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually have an aspiration and an ambition. I would love to write, and I kind of do it very low key because on Reddit there's a channel where you can actually pair up with someone and do role playing. So it's like you write a chapter, then and the person you're paired up with, they will write a chapter back at you, and you kind of go back and forth. So that kind of like me dipping my toes in writing.
So obviously I've heard about this, but we've not read anything yet. When are we going to get a chance to read
Well,
that?
actually, you know what? Tell a lie. You have read it.
Only one scene, not one like page.
One page. Or when it's all finished, and then I'll basically maybe be brave and publish it.
Yes.
But no, you know what? It goes down to the hurdles, isn't it? Because what stops us from writing? I mean, for me, it's time, and
of course.
because I'm a math teacher, I feel like English as a language, and to structure a sentence and to structure a story doesn't come naturally to me as it does maybe to other people. But today it's all about breaking down them barriers.
Absolutely.
And we want to inspire a whole generation of writers and a whole generation of readers. So Sophia, I want to ask you, what themes and messages do you explore in your writing?
So there's quite a few in this one. The main one is kind of courage and resilience, so never to give up. It's our main character, Carson, kind of goes through this turmoil, basically.
Don't give away
not
much
too much.
spoilers.
No, I promise you. He goes through turmoil, which I'm not going to say too much about, but he's got to have that resilience and persistence and keep going. And not only does Carson have to do that, we all have to do that in everyday life. Even for us as a writer, when we were writing, we had to show those characteristics. So I think that's courage and hope, and also love. There's a lot of love in there, sibling love, and I think that's a really nice, warming message to come through.
Oh, that's good. Do you get along with your sibling then, do you?
She's okay, Amina. Hope you're not listening.
We can go on another story here when we talk about the sibling love between Sofia and my wife. Can I ask you, what particular message, Azra, did you try and convey in your writing? Was that too...
I think it's tricky. I think that what I do is I write about what I know, because essentially if you want to write, you have to be able to write about the things you know. You can't write about something unless it's authentic. And you might try, but it doesn't work. So it has to be from your true experiences. So often they will reflect your values and your own sort of life principles and things like that. So I'm often writing about, I don't know, little girls in trapped in situations that perhaps they might need a little bit of help with, and so there's sometimes a blur between fantasy as well. So
do you like fantasy
I
books?
love fantasy fiction.
Oh,
So
what's your
there's
favourite fantasy book?
I'm a Terry Pratchett girl through and through.
Oh, lovely.
Love him to bits. But, and there's so much to learn as well from his writing.
Yeah,
so
he's a
incredible.
brilliant author.
Yeah.
To be honest, I grew up on Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Right. But my favourite author in the fantasy, obviously J.R. Tolkien, he's like amazing. Everybody knows who he is. But I think a lesser known British writer, David Gemmell, I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Okay, David Gamble.
Gemmell. So
yes,
he's passed away.
Yeah.
I was absolutely heartbroken when he passed away. But the books that he written, his theme has usually been about heroes, people stepping up in the moment and being a hero. But there's one particular book, and it's called Legend, and it's about someone who has no compromise on his principle. He sees the world as black and white. And for me, it's almost like I live my life by them values. I will lend you that book because it's absolute awesome
I
read.
look forward to reading it.
Yeah. When we're talking about sort of mythical books, that's, even though this one that we've written is not mythical, but that's almost, I didn't realise it until I started reading Harry Potter, which obviously everybody knows, but that's kind of my favourite genre. And I think two new authors that have been around just for a couple of years, A.F. Steadman and Aisling Fowler, and I think they take the mythical world. Have you read her books, Azra?
No.
No.
What's the name of the books?
So it's Scandra and the Unicorn Thief by A.F. Steadman and Fireborn by Aisling Fowler.
So I have read like about 4 pages of Skandar.
Yeah.
Everyone, you and Amina have been telling me, make sure you read it,
Obsessed.
and the kids as well.
Yeah. Even Amari and the Night Brothers, so all these newer ones, I think they're absolutely amazing, also in that kind of genre of mythical fantasy.
I think probably me and you, Azra, we're too busy marking, aren't we?
Literally so busy marking.
Yeah, when we get to secondary school, I mean, English teachers, very, very busy marking.
I don't know when I've actually read a book and completed it. It's been a while. Like, I have to wait for the holidays before I can...
What's the last book you read, Azra,
Let me have a
that
think.
you remember?
There was one actually that the kids gave to me. It's called It Ends With Us. It was a TikTok book. I wasn't too... it wasn't really up my kind of... But because they were raving so much and they came in, some of my Year 10 kids came and gave it to me. So I said, fine, we'll do a book swap and we'll read it. But yeah, I wasn't too impressed, but then, they all loved it, so...
How about you, Sophia?
I think I've got a few on the go. I kind of, for me it's different, I think, because I do have more time, and with my job I'm always recommending books to my students. I'm literally, right now I'm reading Kingdom Over the Sea by Zora Nabi. I'm also reading Onyeka by Tolo, I can't say I forgot her surname. Yeah. I'm on the second book of that. I'm also reading Hobbit with my kids. We're about halfway through of that, so I think...
So how are you finding The Hobbit?
That's probably... I'm not loving it the way I thought I would. It's a very different style to what I like, but I'm still glad I'm reading it, because I think often the way they construct their sentences, myself and the kids will just laugh at it. We're like, what is he saying? But actually it's nice to see a different writing style.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, he's written that book in the 1930s, I believe.
Yeah.
Right, and English was very much different, and let's not forget he was a professor of English. And I think the way he crafted the world in them times, right, when fantasy book was maybe not so much of a common theme. I mean, fantasy, there was more like historical books that was written during that time, but
But you see,
but he essentially set the scene to allow many writers like Terry Pratchett, gave them a chance to come out the woodworks and give them like inspiration. So good on him. But so I'm going to ask you as well, what influenced how would you describe your writing style?
Oh, I'm not sure, to be honest. I would say that if I'm writing sort of more kind of young adult fiction, then it sort of it changes slightly to the voice that I write in when obviously I'm writing.
So what
much
do you prefer writing for a young adult, or do you prefer writing for adults?
I think ideally I want to be writing middle grade and young adult fiction because that's where I'm comfortable writing, but I'm also happy to do these younger stories because, for example, my daughter fits within that age group, so it's nice that I can write something that she's going to read as well.
So if I'm right, I googled your name, books, and I saw something about you got some books being sold at Waterstone.
These are a bunch of books that I wrote a while ago.
But even then, I
don't discredit it.
No, absolutely not. You're published, and you know, for me, I was reading the title, and I go, you know what? I bet you wrote it because your daughter was of that age.
I was teaching her phonics, and I there was this really good system that I was using, so I was making rhymes out of them. So when I spoke to this publisher, I said, well, I could turn this into a book about this or that. So they'd give me kind of topics, then I'd, write little books, very sort of young books, but still it was fun to kind of explore, and how to simplify information to that level was difficult. So we might be talking about, I don't know, the environment, but how do I do that in
There was something I saw, something about Snow Day.
Greta Thunberg, just some
I
very
think
simple books.
Amazing. It's an amazing achievement. Don't knock it, and you should be really, really proud of yourself that you did that. And let's face it, that's why we're here today, because I think there's a writer, there's a storyteller in every one of us in this world today.
Absolutely.
And it's for us to unlock that potential, because the world would be so much better with stories. But can I ask to you, Sophia, what routines and ritual do you have that helped you stay focused? Because you said it took you about a year to write this book.
Yeah, so I think how we started was, obviously it was myself, Amira and Khalil writing it. And what we would do, we'd get together every week, the three of us, for just a half an hour, 45-minute session, and we would discuss, this is after we'd started, what's the next chapter going to be, what's the next part, really break it down, bullet points, what we wanted to get from that. Was it going to be an emotional chapter, was it going to be adventurous, or do we need a descriptive paragraph? So really kind of break it down. And then Amira would write her homework one week, and then Khalil would do it. So they'd always have about 500 words. So when Amira's turn would write it, she would then send it to me. I would then spend an afternoon going through that, because with children, I like to get emotion across, and my writing's quite emotive, and they don't have those experiences yet. So when they would send it, there's quite an emotional scene in there, but actually the writing was beautiful, but it didn't evoke that emotion that I wanted to. So I would edit it and add bits like that. I might then add another 200-300 words, so that we're then at the place where then Khalil could read what Amira's written, and then we'd plan his session and he would write it. So it's almost like Amira, myself, Khalil, myself, and in between. So literally I would have to keep an afternoon, 2-3 hours a week, going through the work and redoing it, and then we'd go through it again together. So, and I think it was so important, especially with Khalil, some of the challenges he had. He has got beautifully descriptive writing, but sometimes it didn't match our story. So he would write these paragraphs, and he'd come and he'd say, and I'd read it. I thought, if you did that in an English lesson, you're describing something fantastic, but actually, where's our characters in this story? So we would then have to say, right, we need to just cut this out and cut that out. And that was quite hard for him.
So can I ask you, how do you know how to do all of that? Did you just follow your gut?
Yeah, from reading. I think because I've read a lot, I was almost like, I know what I need to do as a teacher, because when they get a picture at school and they have to do a descriptive piece of writing, they would have to do a page of that, really describe it, go into all their writing techniques, their pathetic fallacy and whatnot. But actually, in the story, if you have too much of that, people get bored. You need enough just to set the scene, and then that's enough. So actually, I think it's from reading, because I've read all the time and I'm literally reading. In the last 6 months, I've read about 50 children's books.
50 children's books. Where do you get the time?
Audiobooks are the one. So I've got a Kindle, my paperback with the kids, and audiobooks. And when I'm doing my stuff in the morning, audiobook, and I'm at the gym, I'm just getting through books after books. So I think that's really helped.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the best way to research.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. Sometimes I find that when I start writing, if I start writing, I think you know what, this sentence doesn't sound right and things like that. I can construct a story. If you ask me, and one of the great things about being a father to a 4-year-old right now is that at night time I can spin a yarn. I can spin a story, and now she absolutely loves it when I say a story. I mean,
I can imagine.
yeah, so it's actually a game that I want to play with you guys now. I'm ambushing you guys right now because I didn't tell you about it in advance, because if I told you about it in advance, then you guys would say no. So we're gonna play a game. So I'm gonna start off with a sentence, and you're gonna tell me the next sentence of the story.
Oh gosh, okay.
All right? And
Thanks for telling us before.
Yeah.
Fine.
So this is gonna be. Yeah, come on, we can do this. We can do it, and we're gonna get some people from outside the radio studio, people to call in to maybe give their contribution as well. So here we go. Right. So think about it. This is for 4 or 5-year-old. Yeah.
Oh, 4 or 5-year-olds, okay.
There is no limit to our imagination.
Sure.
Right.
All right. So we're gonna start. We can start off in one place. We can go to outer space. We can do whatever we want. So here's the first sentence. Okay. So long time ago, there was a volcano. And on the side of that volcano lived, you want to go?
Lived a turtle called Zambi.
A turtle called Zambi.
Yes.
Right? Azwaj, would you like to add to that?
Sure. One day, Zambi woke up and found out that she was out of milk. And so she went down to the local co-op.
Did not go the way I wanted to go.
To the local co-op.
Zambi walked down to the local co-op, but then she decided to instead stop at pack foods.
Oh my gosh.
I'm actually having a bit of a writer's block there. Okay, we're going to stop there, and we're going to let our audience, right, think of the next step to basically give the next line of our story. Okay, moving on. Right, so I want to ask you, Aswa, is there any challenges you faced as a writer, and how did you overcome them?
Well, you touched upon it briefly before. You said time. Time is, something you need to have when you want to write. So it's as old as what Virginia Woolf says in her, A Room with a View. So a woman needs a room and a space of her own in order to write. But to do that, somebody has to provide that space. So if I'm providing it for myself, how much time do I have to write? Do you understand? It becomes this sort of a complex issue. I think that the best way for me to overcome it is to dedicate even the smallest amount of time, but to dedicate it. So the key word there is to dedicate it. So that means that time in the day is just that time. Nothing else can take it away or interfere with it. It has to be that important.
So do you know, I read about J.K. Rowling, what she used to do when she used to write the last few chapters of her books. She actually used to check in to a hotel in Edinburgh and just lock herself away.
Yeah.
And that's what she used to finish. And sometimes I wish that I could do that. And
We don't have that luxury.
we don't have that luxury anymore. But before I had kids, I sometimes felt, you know what, I got a summer holiday, I got, 6 weeks, I can actually bust this out and write something for myself.
Right, so summer's coming. I'm going to hold you to this.
But it's not going to happen though, is it? Because,
Amelia.
you got the little one, you're running around and, but I do, talking to you two really inspired me, and I do want to make my dream come true that one day, and, even my wife says, one of the things that I really want you to do is to write.
Yeah.
And for me, I want to write like a fantasy type story, and but almost like based in the modern world, right? Based in the present world, and almost have a parallel world to it, right? But one day I'll get to it, and maybe you guys can see and proofread my work.
That actually sounds like my type of story.
I
so
think
yes.
you two guys will get your red pen, like the pen I'm holding in my hand right now, and you'll be correcting all my English mistakes and everything. Put the commas and etc. etc. But for me, I find that's where I struggle. It's like the grammar, right, and things like that. What sort of tips could you give to someone who struggle like me, who English doesn't, the writing doesn't come naturally to them?
I would say just write, because I think after you write, you can come back to all of that. If you just write, get your ideas down, get your emotions, get your story down, just keep writing. The rest of it can be fixed. You can have editors to look at that, you can have proofreaders, but that doesn't matter. The main is the heart and soul that goes into your story. So anybody can write, whether they think they're good in English or they're not good at English, anybody can write. I think for me, even as I'm really pedantic with my grammar, and even when I wrote, because when I was reading, I'd read it over so many times, my paragraphs, Amira's, Khalil's. there were so many things I missed, so I enlisted one of my friends, Rachel, if you're listening, Rachel, I enlisted her to have a read through, and she found errors in there, and like, how could I ever think, why could I do that? But actually, it's because I'm reading past it. One point should have said swimming, and I put swimmer, and I didn't read that. So I think you just need somebody else then to support you afterwards, but anybody can write.
Yeah, but it's exactly what you said, that essentially one of the key things that I've learned is that all good writing is rewriting. That means that if you want to produce good writing, you have to go back and rewrite it. That's inevitable. So
it sounds like something that Mark Twain said, because I read something about Mark Twain, that what he used to do, he used to write a sentence, and he used to rewrite it until he was happy with it.
Well, I heard this from my lecturer at university, because I have a master's in creative writing, so that's where I kind of understood that, in order to write, I'm not just done with one draft or second draft, it's going to be many, many drafts of the same thing, to the point where it's exactly what you said, that you get sick of it, you can't see it yourself now, your eyes just fly past it now, so you need the outside pair of eyes as well.
Okay, so it looks like we got the next line of our story. So Will's Zabi, the turtle, went to co-op, and so Patfu decided to have a barbecue over the volcano.
I love
Whoa, that is well, whoever gave that, thank you for that creative piece of writing.
Yeah, back to our volcano, which is good.
Right, so back to the volcano, and I'm going to say the next line. So as he was barbecuing some lovely chicken steaks and beef steaks, an alien came down on his flying saucer and kidnapped Zabi and took him to outer space. Sophia?
While he was travelling up to outer space, while he was travelling, he tried to scream in his most deafening voice possible. However, nothing could be heard. It was silence.
Silent.
Until in the distance, he saw a large planet very much in similarity to a slice of pizza. And off they went.
Now that's it. So in the distance, he saw a large planet in the shape of a pizza. I hope it was margarita pizza.
Maybe there is a bit more on that pizza, sir.
Okay, now it's over to you guys, the listeners. Please give us your next line of the story.
All right. Before we continue, can I just say thank you to all my Instagram Live? I didn't expect to have so many of you joining, so thank you, and much appreciate all the support and love. Okay, back to you.
I appreciate you guys signing in, and make sure you follow us on Radio Ramadan, Ramadan FM Instagram page as well, please. Okay, so my question is, I'm going to ask you, Sophia, what do you enjoy most about being a writer, and is there a particular aspect or creative process that gives you the most satisfaction?
I think I like to be able to just zone out when I'm writing. So I've now got my own office space, which has got a beautiful view of my garden. I love sitting on my comfortable chair and just really getting into it. And I think I absolutely loved falling in love with my characters, which I never thought I would, because you read other books and actually when you're reading them, you think you really root for the characters. And I didn't think I could produce a character like that. And when I did, Carson from the start, I literally fell in love with him. And if Amira or Khalil would write something that didn't quite match him, I'd be like, that's not what Carson would do. And I got quite protective over him. And other authors who have read my work, I've had 3 authors reading it, and all of them mentioned, and 3 authors plus 2 other kind of editors, and all of them have mentioned how they rooted for Carson and really wanted, and they fell in love with him also. So I feel like I need to read more about Carson.
That sounds incredible.
Well, I'll print it out tomorrow and we'll read about Carson. We don't know Carson, but we're Team Carson.
Yes,
we're Team Carson, right?
So yeah, I loved getting into his character, and I almost felt the emotion at times. I would feel quite emotional writing, or when I was rewriting a scene. And like I said, I never experienced any of that before.
So can I ask a question now to both of you, right? I don't know who wants to answer first. So now let's talk about character development. So when you're writing a story, is that where you start developing your character, or do you just write and see where it takes you?
Should I go?
I don't know. No, you go.
I mean, for me, when I think about a story, I think for me, my focus more is about the plot line, right?
Yeah, I think with us, we kind of just did a really basic plot line. So to start off with, we thought, what do we want to happen? This, and this. Literally like a 3 short main idea. And then we thought, who's going to be in that story? So we had our 3 main characters. And then I got a tip from someone to write a biography about them almost, to really get to know your characters. And they said, even if you don't include all of that into your writing, you need to know your character inside out. So we wrote literally a page on Carson, a page on Dad, and a page on Isla. And half of it didn't go into the story, but that made us really understand our characters. So I think when we were writing, I was able to say, no, that's not Carson, because that's not what his personality is like. And how he changes as well. Your character can change and develop through the story, as us as humans do over time. So I think that's kind of where we started. We wrote about a biography, and then we wove him into the story. But the plot was there, and then after we had done the character biographies, we then broke it down chapter by chapter. And then after breaking down chapter by chapter, weekly we would discuss each chapter in more depth. I mean, we've only got 10 chapters. It's a short, I mean, I'm talking like we've got this really massive book. It's a short book, 115 pages, but...
Hey, well, you know what? It's a book. It's a book that you've written. It's a book that's going to be published.
It's an accomplishment.
Yeah,
it really
is an accomplishment.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Is there something you want to add to that?
I don't know, because you want your character to read as though they are fully formed from the first page, but that's not how it's going to be when you begin to write. Often with me, what will happen is I'll have a voice. So I'll have the character voice first, and it will be a strong voice, and so then I feel like, okay, this is worth the character that's going to be shaped around it. So what I mean is I will have a skeleton of a person in my mind that I will then flesh out in a similar way as writing a biography. Sometimes that can just be writing what they might think, or thinking how people would react in a situation. And again, you write about what you know. So it'll often be things, people you've seen in similar, which is what writers are always writing about. You never annoy a writer, because you might end up as a villain in their next book. So
I love that.
Apparently, J.K. Rowling, she said I remember watching a documentary, and some of the people whose characters that are baddies in the books are people who were maybe not nice to her and kind of played on their name a bit and things like that. If we just look at the screen, we got the last line of the story. So it says, Will's going to Pizza Planet. He got hit by a meteoroid, and woke up and found out it was a dream. That person just killed the story.
dream.
However, there was a tapping on the window. A pink flamingo could be seen outside wearing a pair of shades.
And eating a slice of pizza.
Thank you very much. Back we go.
I love it. That's the way you end the story. The end. I love it. Okay, so as I was talking about earlier, about you guys are talking about developing your characters and things like that. For me, what about the plot line? Because doesn't the plot move the story along?
Yeah.
Because and I'm saying this because sometimes I'm watching like TV, watching movies. Sometimes I can even predict what's going on, and I think to myself, this writer is not whoever wrote the story is not very good, because if I can predict what's going to happen, then
it takes away the fun.
It takes away the fun. I want the rug pulled from under me. I want to be surprised. I want to be mesmerized, and I want there to be plot twists. So how important is it? Or does it depend on the story you're telling?
Well, sometimes I think what you're talking about is you can get like tropes and genres, don't you? That's why in a thriller it's going to be like this, or this kind of movie is going to be like that. But I think that when you write, every sentence you write, every word you write should serve the progression of the plot.
I like
so
that.
not one word is there just for no reason. Everything should be to push that plot forwards, whether that is dialogue or description, as you say, anything at all. Now, sometimes for me, plot develops because I've seen something and it's bothered me, and I've thought, what if I wrote about it and explored it from this angle? Sometimes plot is an inspiration where I've just thought of it, oh my God, this is it, this is the idea. So, or sometimes plot is, I've figured out the ending before the beginning, so now I need to I've figured out the problem, but now let me create the whole backstory to it.
That's very interesting, because sometimes I think I visualize a story, and what I do, I visualize like the finale, and it's amazing, like finale, and I kind of picture it as a movie.
Yeah.
And I set the stage, but then I work my way backwards, thinking, how did we get there? And that story of how they got there is the story that I want to sort of like say.
And the plot, I was going to say, also the plot can change. So you might start off with something, but actually as you go through your story and you're writing it, it might change, not the full plot. You want to kind of keep your ideas in sync, but if parts of it change, and you think actually that doesn't work, don't be afraid to just take things out and get rid of it and move on in a different direction. I was actually given the advice to have a theme before your plot, have a theme through your story. And we talk about themes and things when we teach children in school, but I didn't realise that was actually even more important than the plot. Not more important, but just as important as the plot. And that's kind of when I came up with the courage and hope and that sort of. So I came up with that first, and that shaped a lot of our writing. So yes, we had our plot, but actually bringing in those themes consistently, that shaped a lot of our writing also. So I wanted to make sure when I was writing, am I getting that feeling from there consistently as we go through the story?
Yeah, that's incredible, really. That's like basically what I would term as a voice. That to me, it's the voice. It's the same thing. The voice is, this is what I feel like saying, or this is something that I'm seeing around me that I feel that perhaps there should be an exploration of, not a judgment or, just an exploration.
Absolutely.
So just want to say thank you to two of our listeners, Farana and Kamran, for sending messages saying mashallah. So thank you for listening.
Thank
I
you.
just want to give a shout out, love to you guys, and hope you guys enjoying your day. And we've got about 9 minutes left of the show, but I think there's one really important point that I want to make out, because I think the reality of it is that not everyone loves reading, and not everyone loves reading like fiction book. Because I'm going to talk about something personal here, because for me, my dad, he doesn't read fiction books at all. He reads historical books. He likes reading history books. He likes reading non-fiction. And he taught me about all these things. And, mashallah, I'm really grateful for that, because it gave me a lot of knowledge. I, however, wanted to explore the creative side, and I used to love going to the library and reading fiction books. Tried to do the same to my younger brother, and that did not work at all. He hated reading, but give him a non-fiction book, he would consume that knowledge. And I think it's really important for us all here in the studio and the listener out there to understand that there are two types of readers: people who will love reading fiction book and people who will love reading non-fiction book. And it's important that if you're a parent, to nurture both sides of it. And for me, as a older brother to him, I basically try to nurture that side, and he loves it. He does still, even in his adulthood, he will consume knowledge. And I think for us as Muslim listeners as well, right, we do need to consume knowledge and to expand our knowledge and to expand our personality as well. And I went to the Halal Food Festival a couple of weeks back, and there's so many stalls there that was Islamic books there for children, and I love how they engage in the younger readers now. And I think that's really important, that we do inspire the next generation of writers.
Yeah, because I think I was going to say as well, I think everybody can love to read if they find the right books for them. Because so many times I have children come to me and the parents say, they don't enjoy reading. But actually, no, let's find the right book for them. If we find the right book for the children, they will love reading. They need to be exposed to it first, they need to have the time to do it. Because reading is so therapeutic. It gets you, it takes you, if you read fiction books, it takes you into a completely different world. And for you to be a better writer, people don't realise the impact reading has. As any children that come to me, I will say to them, even if they come for writing, you must read. If you're not reading, there's no point in you coming to me. They have to go hand in hand. And I think they can get so much from that. So yeah, I absolutely agree. Reading's important. But when you say some love it and some don't, the ones who don't just haven't found the right book yet.
Exactly, I 100% agree. Can I make one last point, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sorry, Saif. I keep calling you sir because
you don't need to call me sir.
It's so annoying. It's a habit.
And you shouldn't
now.
even be calling me sir at school anyway.
Honestly, I'm afraid to say your name in front of the kids. It's like forbidden.
I know
isn't it?
what you
so,
mean.
Yeah.
I do that as well.
Yeah. So just the last point. I often say this to people, that our entire religion is presented to us in the form of scripture, in something that we read. The first word revealed to the Prophet was Iqra, read. We are not below reading. We must not belittle reading. Reading is key to our growth and to our understanding. So I would say to parents that if your child is not reading, swap that phone with a book and say for 30 minutes, you must read. And, that's it. That's really my...
Yeah, a non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable.
It's a non-negotiable. I totally agree with you. Right, we have a message from Abu, and he said, good story, really impressive. Any recommendations for beginner writers?
Beginner writers. Okay, well, First of all, pick a book, start reading something that you're going to enjoy, some sort of genre that you're into. Do you like fantasy fiction? What do you like? You have to discover what you like. And then you need to just write. That's your first step. You need to write. You need to write anything. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter how undeveloped it is. That's your first step, is put it down on paper and then be really proud of the fact that you did that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, can I ask, as well, you as an English teacher you teach GCSE English, you have a student in front of you, how would you nurture that student? Because they have to do some creative writing in their GCSE. So what sort of tips do you give them?
Well, it's essential. They have to be able to write either descriptively or a narrative piece for their GCSE exam. So and it makes up 40 marks of that paper.
And the English exam is tomorrow, isn't it?
English exam is tomorrow. So good luck to all of you out there.
Yeah, so
good luck.
Good luck to the Judge Meadows students.
Exactly.
And to be honest, all the students around Leicester who are going to be sitting the English exam tomorrow, good luck to you. Our love and du'as are with you all.
You're going to be amazing, guys. Don't
Absolutely.
forget that perspective question comes in 2 parts. Don't forget, guys. Sorry. Just a final
Get the teacher
tip.
voice in there.
Quickly. I can't remember what we were saying, sir. Oh, how would I nurture them?
Yeah.
Well, we would work on their creative writing skills. Perhaps we do lots of creative writing things at school. There's a poetry club that we're running that they can, take part in. So it's just about showing that support and teaching them the love of writing.
Absolutely. So, do you want to say anything?
Sorry, I missed that question. I was too busy looking at Azra.
So Azra, from a point of view of a secondary school teacher, how does she nurture that creative writing? So for you, you're primary school trained. I know you're not working as a primary school teacher, but you have had a lot of experience teaching kids in primary school. So how would you nurture creative writing to a primary school child?
Well, absolutely. It's the same, and I didn't realise until I started. I actually started teaching Key Stage 3 as well, and I realised how similar they were. If the children have something they're excited about, they'll want to write about it. So when we're, my mic's gone up. When we anything that we're writing about, give them what's that called? A hook, basically. If you've got a hook, they'll want to write about it. And that will then inspire them to hopefully want to continue their writing journey going forward. So always making it exciting. So even if you're writing for school or writing by yourself, be interested in it, be excited by it, be passionate about it.
That's really good tips. We only got less than 3 minutes left. Can you believe? Right. So we need to start winding down, and we need to really start thinking about our final messages. And for me, I think reading is a crucial part for development of your skill set. And intelligence, intelligence, and emotional intelligence comes from reading. Reading tells us about the stories of our past, so we can learn about it and helps us create the future. And we do certainly want to create a positive future in the world that we live in. But also, I need to tell you that reading does not have to be stressful. It should be fun. Summer's on the corner. It's hot, lovely day today. Make sure you have your sunblock on. But you know what? Get a book, sit in the garden, read a few chapters, get inspired. You don't have to consume knowledge. Look, I'm 43 years old. I've read a lot of books. I'm a bit boring because, to be honest, I read the same books over and over again. I'm not going to lie. And I really need to sort of say to myself, read more books, read different authors and explore the genre. And that's my mission. This summer, I'm going to read at least 2-3 books of different writers that I've never read before. I'm actually going to start experimenting. I'm also going to say something else, is that all the successful billionaires, people, anybody you can think of. So we're talking about Elon Musk, you want to talk about Bill Gates. What they actually do is that they read almost 5 books every month, right? And they mostly read non-fiction, but they read 5 books. They consume knowledge, just make them knowledgeable, and it does make them successful in what they are. And I'm going to pass it over to Sof. What's your final thoughts? We've got a minute left, 30 seconds.
Okay, so I'll be really quick. Read. Find something you really enjoy reading, and try and be quick. I love paperbacks, but even if it's a Kindle you're after, anything, audiobooks, just read.
And you, Azra?
And just the same as both of you, that read, and don't let TikTok videos erode your brain away, please, children.
Oh, God, yes.
Yes, please stay away from social media. Give some time to reading, people. But put it this way, it's not about staying away from social media. It's about having a balance on things, right? We should live a life of balance with everything. It's written in our hadith, written in Islam, that we should live in a balanced life. So the question today, can anyone be a writer? Yes, they can. It's all about giving that time and commitment and allowing yourself to have a positive mindset. Now, I love getting into a story and allowing it to capture my imagination, and I hope you enjoyed listening about everything today. Thank you for listening to our very first show. Thank you for all the messages that's come in. Thank you to the producer. Thank you to my two lovely guests, who are Sofia Moti and Azra.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, because you know what, I know I didn't give you any choice. Thank you, people. Thank you, listeners, and that's me signing off.